open to everyone. The answer to that is, when a person is fasting and he makes dua, it's not going to be rejected. As the Prophet ﷺ, he says, لِقَوْلِهِ صلى الله عليه وسلم, due to his saying, ثَلَاثَةٌ لَا تُرَدُّ دَعْوَتُهُمْ. There are 3 types of people whose dua will not be rejected. From the first of them, الصَّائِمُ حَتَّى يُفْطِرُ, the fasting person until he breaks his fast. So throughout his whole fast, if he makes dua, it's not going to be rejected. So this is something recommended, highly recommended. If you have an opportunity for your du'as to be answered throughout the whole day, so this is definitely something which is recommended. That's why he's mentioned it, that a fasting person is recommended for him to make dua. And the other 2, al-imam al-adil, the just ruler, wal-mazloom, and the one who's been oppressed. These 3 people, their du'as will not be rejected. And the hadith is reported by Tirmidhi, who graded it as Hasan, also Al-Bayhaqi and others, from the hadith of Anas, with the wording ثلاثة دعوات لا ترد دعوة الوالد ودعوة الصائم ودعوة المسافر وصححه الألباني. This is a hadith which Shaykh Albani graded as Sahih, but the wording he graded Sahih is the hadith of Anas, 3 types of du'as which will not be rejected: da'watul walid, the dua of the parent; the dua of the fasting person; the dua of the traveler. طيب. This hadith is authentic. So the reason why it's been mentioned is because a fasting person, his du'as are not rejected. His du'as are not rejected. طيب. The authors, they mentioned 2 things: dua at the time of breaking the fast specifically, and dua throughout the fast. But they've mentioned evidence for the second part, which is this, but they haven't mentioned evidence for the first part, making dua at the time of fitr, breaking the fast specifically. With regards to this part, yes, there is a hadith that the Prophet ﷺ mentions, comes in the hadith of Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As, which is reported by Ibn Majah and others, that he will have his dua answered at the time of fitr, حين يفطر. However, this hadith has been graded as da'if. Shaykh Albani in Irwa, his book Irwa al-Ghalil, hadith number 921, he graded it as da'if. And likewise Shaykh Muqbil in his commentary of Tafsir ibn Kathir on the ayah وَإِذَا سَأَلَكَ عِبَادِ عَنِّي in Surah Al-Baqarah, he graded this hadith to be inauthentic, the hadith which speaks about making dua specifically at the time of iftar. So this part here, there's no evidence, so this part is weak. But the second part, which is a greater blessing, is authentic. Yani throughout the whole fast, your dua will not be rejected. Yani your dua is going to be accepted. So this is something which a person who is fasting should make use of. That he should not only increase in dhikr, increase in reciting Quran, he should also increase in making a lot of dua. He should increase in making a lot of dua. And a person should not be put off if his du'as are not answered, or he doesn't see the results of his du'a. He asks for something, he keeps asking for it, but he's not receiving what he's asking for. You shouldn't be put off by this, because a person who makes du'a, he is in a win-win situation. Even if he doesn't get his du'a answered, or he can't physically see what he's asking for, he is in a win-win situation. Because the Prophet ﷺ, he said in the hadith of Abu Sa'id, which is reported by Ahmad and is being graded Sahih by Shaykh Albani in Sahih At-Targhib, the Prophet ﷺ, he said, ما من أحد يدعو بدعوة ليس فيها إثم ولا قطيعة رحم إلا أعطاه الله بها إحدى ثلاث. No one makes dua in which he does not ask for something sinful or ask for cutting of the ties. The person, he makes dua, he doesn't ask for something sinful or cutting the ties of kinship, except that Allah will give him one of 3 things. So you're in a win-win situation. You're going to receive one of 3 things. The first one is إِمَّا أَن تُعَجَّلَ لَهُ دَعْوَتُهُ. Either his dua is going to be answered. And this is the one that most of us seek. This is the one that most of us look out for. If we don't get this one, that's when we become depressed, we become sad, and maybe we stop making dua. So this is the first one. If you don't get the first one, that your dua is answered, the Prophet ﷺ said, وَإِمَّا أَن يُدَّخِرَهَا وَإِمَّا أَن يَدَّخِرَهَا فِي الْآخِرَةِ. Or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to save it for him and give him the reward and respond to him in the akhirah. That's the second. وَإِمَّا أَن يَصْرِفَ عَنْهُ مِنَ السُّوءِ مِثْلَهَا. Or thirdly, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will repel and ward away an evil equal to it, equal to that which you're asking. You're asking Allah for something, Allah will, instead of giving you what you want, He will repel evil and take away evil from you, equal to that which you're asking. Then the Sahaba, when they heard this, they said, إِذَا نُكْثِرْ, we're going to increase in making dua. So Allah's Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, Allahu Akthar. Allah is more. His treasures, they have no limit. His bounties have no limit. So we shouldn't lose hope when our du'as are not answered. We should be hopeful that even if our dua is not answered, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give us the remaining two bi'idhn.